Welcome back. You're watching a Newsline right here on KTN News. It's time to have that conversation on taming political intolerance. In studio, we do have Reverend Dr. Samuel Kobia, the chairperson of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. It's good to have you, Bwana Chairman. Karibu sana.
Thank you. Thank you, friend.
Remember, you can be part of the conversation on Twitter at KTN News KE. That's your Twitter handle. Use the hashtag Newsline. My Twitter handle is at Fred Indimuli. Now, 286 days to the election. You will be forgiven to think that the elections are next week, given the fact that politicians have already kicked off their campaigns, albeit prematurely. But that comes with a lot of other things as well. And we've already started witnessing instances of political intolerance and reckless talk, borderline incitement. And we're asking the question, who's going to come and help us? Is this a habit that we've formed and we cannot get rid of? And, Bwana Chairman, you've been constantly monitoring the changing political landscape as the NCIC. It's part of your mandate. And the rising stakes as well as active politicking. Probably we start off by asking you, how would you rate the current political tolerance or otherwise, if at all?
Well, thank you, Fred. What I would say really is that political tolerance or intolerance, if we might want to term it as such, is fairly high, but I want to believe that it's going down. But currently...
Intolerance going down or tolerance going down?
Intolerance is going down. I would like to say that when you observe the trend, which I would say could be measured by the number of politicians that on a weekly or monthly basis that have been involved in, say, hate speech or intolerance, etc., is going slightly down. What I want to believe is that it is still fairly high. It must go down completely, and we must come to a point where we will stop this very unfortunate habit of political intolerance.
Yet the expectation is that the happenings we're witnessing now are coming in a bit too early in the day. That probably even in previous electoral periods, that this kind of heightened activity, heightened political rhetoric comes much closer to the election time. At this time around, it's almost 300 days, almost a year before the elections. Is there a cause for concern?
Yes, indeed, there is a cause for concern because if we begin campaigns this early and we begin to oppose each other, this could easily lead to a trend that will make the politicians think that, the more they raise their voice or the more they attack their opponents, the better they will be understood as good politicians by their followers. So it's a bit too early, but on the other hand, Kenya is known in Africa as a country where there is a campaign from the beginning of, at the end of one election to the next. And I have talked with some friends of mine, non-Kenyans, and say, how can you Kenyans be able to sustain a political, temperature for so long? So it's a habit that we have learned. It's a habit that we can unlearn. And this is where we want to concentrate on as NCIC and really challenge the politicians and impress upon them that Kenya has come to a maturity, democratically speaking, where we should really shun the intolerance that we used to have, and particularly name-calling. This really has come to an end.
Okay. And I have to be very honest with you, Bwana Chairman, and when we were trying to talk about this conversation and introducing it to our viewers way before you came into studio through social media, we got some feedback, and it is probably what your predecessors have been fighting all along, that tag of, and allow me to use this phrase, toothless bulldog. And some were asking, is that the kind of organization you should be really posing these questions to? And these are our viewers, and these are the questions they're posing. Is this the right, are we asking the right questions as the media, and are we asking the right questions to the right people?
Well, Fred, I think I could say yes. You are asking the right questions to the right people.
Is the NCIC the right people NCIC, to be asked these questions?
Yes, it is, because when you look at our mandate, remember that NCIC was created after the 2007-2008 electoral violence, and was mandated to try and help the country not to ever go back to what happened in 2007-2008. And therefore, before the elections take place, we are supposed, as the commission that has this mandate, to engage Kenyans and to be able, I'm quite okay to be asked these questions by Kenyans, because then it means that Kenyans are taking us seriously. And they are saying, you are not performing to the level we expect you to perform. Having said that, I would like to say, Fred, that when a NCIC is evaluated or assessed by Kenyans, all that Kenyans wanted to see is that NCIC has arrested and NCIC has jailed political leaders who are engaged in hate speech. Now,
it should be a legitimate expectation, Bwana Chairman.
Yes, it is a legitimate expectation, but it does not seem to indicate that Kenyans actually differentiate between the mandate and the role of NCIC and the role of other agencies. As NCIC, we clearly do monitor, and we are almost everywhere in the country where there are campaigns, political campaigns, political activities. And we do identify leaders when they are engaged in hate speech or incitement. After that, we have to do more investigation in order to determine whether they reach the threshold of being prosecuted. And if we are satisfied that it has reached the threshold, then we hand over to the DPP.
Okay.
But the DPP is very clear to us that you must have hard evidence. And we do take the cases to DPP when we ourselves have satisfied ourselves that we have hard evidence. After that, we leave it to the DPP. The DPP then goes to court. Magistrates are involved, or judges of a high court are involved. So NCIC has done its part. And
that's where it ends.
And it has done its part and done it very well, I must say. Because
yes,
we do have investigators who are very qualified, because these are seconded to us by DCIO. It's not just we don't collect people all over the place and bring them. These are very highly qualified people. The head of the investigations division is a senior superintendent of police.
Okay.
So a very senior person. So we know that we have evidence. So that's one. Secondly, when we summon the instigators, we engage them. In some cases, we feel that perhaps, but it depends also on how they react. There are those who come and say, I was provoked to a level where I couldn't control myself. I'm now feeling that really it was not good what I did. So can we talk?
Okay.
And I would like to be remorseful, and I want now, from now on, to behave if you would want.
Okay.
That one is what we call, we go to conciliation.
Okay.
And that's, in fact, there are more who end up with the conciliation, and they end up reforming and actually changing their behavior.
Because generally the expectation would be that any case started or investigated and sent to the DPP by the NCIC would have an expected result of convictions in courts, people getting jailed or punished in any other way, but we rarely get to see this. And you would forgive Kenyans for wondering how come, and how come we're not seeing anything, because up till now, it is very difficult to actually point one or two cases where we've seen punishment against any person who's been found guilty or has been investigated for this kind of crimes. Yet, the NCIC itself has come up with a way of trying to probably punish them by using what we call the wall of shame.
Yes.
If at all the DPP does not find that the evidence is conclusive or enough for him to prosecute a case in court, then how does the NCIC arrive at the position that this person can actually be shamed on a wall?
Exactly. And that is why we have now decided to have a multiple approach to dealing with the hate mongers, with the violence inciters, because we have realized since the inception of NCIC that really many cases do not end up with a conviction. And there are reasons, many reasons for that. I don't have to go into the reasons. I have inherited cases of more than 3 years old, okay? And therefore, we also sometimes really get frustrated that we don't see the perpetrators being punished enough, and that's what Kenyans want to see. We also would like to see these people going to jail.
But Chairman, if you are frustrated, yes, you are the person, the one single person that every Kenyan is waiting on to actually ensure that this stops and people get punished, then you understand obviously the hopelessness and the helplessness that Kenyans are coming to you with. And that's why they're expressing the concern. Are we talking to the right people?
Now, we are talking to the right people, and now I want to explain why Kenyans now should be more hopeful that we are going to actually deal with these cases. This is because we have created a multi-agency forum that is going to look at these cases comprehensively, so that when we're dealing with the DCIO, we are dealing with the DPP, we want to have EACC, which is part of that platform, and the IG. And then the good news is that now the Judiciary, which sometimes has been identified as the weakest link. But now, what happened yesterday when the Chief Justice, Honorable Martha Koome, I requested her to help us by having a special bench that can try and fast-track cases of hate speech. And actually, to our really, I think even more than we expected, she took action immediately. And she agreed that she's going to set up special benches in magistrate courts in 5 places: Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Eldoret, and Nakuru. These are places that NCIC has mapped out and considered them to be hot spots. Now, what is going to happen, and very soon at the invitation of the Honorable the Chief Justice, she's going to launch this when we are, going to meet her next time. Once this is done, What we wanted to do is to say within a specific period, and I'm talking of 6 months, that within that period, the cases should have been prosecuted, should have been tried, and should have been adjudged.
She had mentioned about 90 days, that's about 3 months. You talk about 6 months?
Maximum 6 months.
Maximum 6 months.
Maximum 6 months. In fact, if we could do it in 3 months, that's, the reason why we say 3 months to 6 months is because it takes time. Because even when investigations start, they take quite a bit of time. So that is why I'm saying now Kenyans should expect actually much better results of what they wanted to see, including the jail of those who are involved. Now, I talked of the Malta agency so that to show if, as NCIC, we reach our limit, and then from there is the DPP which takes over. Then we wanted to already identify, that is why we are talking of the wall of shame and the wall of fame. Mm-hmm. When I announced that we are going to set up a wall of shame, many Kenyans said, forget it. Kenyan politicians don't worry about being ashamed or whatever. But to our pleasant surprise, Fred, we have seen that the hate speeches have reduced considerably.
Directly related to the existence of the wall of shame?
Yes, because what we realized is that many people don't really to be, imagine a lawyer being put on a wall of shame. He belongs to a legal fraternity. He is a father. He is, So they don't want to be seen that, because when you do that, this has implications. But at the same time, we wanted to say that we are going to have 3, because the problem we have had is that there aren't serious consequences. And that's why Kenyans are saying.
And even the wall of shame. Let's talk about this wall of shame. Some people may argue that that could amount to defamation, that this person has not been found guilty by the courts, has not even been prosecuted by the DPP, but the NCIC carried out investigations and decided that this person has committed a crime. Yet the threshold for one to be convicted is to go through the judicial system. Wouldn't you be open to litigation as well as a commission, just by publishing names of people and accusing them of hate speech?
Well, we have developed a criteria against which we are going to determine when a person should be, the name should be published on the wall of shame. Our mandate, actually, which it has been there all along, does require us to make such a list. But it was not invoked by my predecessors, I must say. But when I looked at it, is when I realized that we do have some mandates that sometimes we have not, made the best use of. Mm-hmm. So we are mandated to do that. So I think there are 3 levels of consequences that I want to talk about here. First one is social. And that is where the social consequences, this is where the wall of shame comes in. If you have a notorious offender who, all Kenyans, and there are many Kenyans who tell us, how can you tolerate?
There are some names that you can just mention.
That's right.
From the tips of your fingers, exactly. You can just say this particular is a notorious one.
So those are the ones that we say, those must end up on the wall of shame. Okay, social consequences. And the social consequences, therefore, will make, a person who knows that, if it's a practicing Christian, that my priest will know I'm on the wall of shame, etc. They want to avoid that, okay? The second one is political consequence. The political consequence is where now we are going to work with these other agencies to the extent that we will want people to be banned from running for elective office. And you remember yesterday, CS Matiang even mentioned it at the meeting that we had on the preparedness for elections. Now, we should really reach a point where political parties themselves, working with the rest of us, would say this particular individual should not be eligible for any elective office.
Yet political parties also enjoy patronage from these same individuals, and it depends on how deep the pockets are. As long as I can fund this particular political party, they will not send me away, even if I get reckless in my utterances out there, or depending on how close I am to the party leader. Are you certain that that approach will work?
Yes, I think it will work, and we wanted to see that it works. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about our roadmap, what we call elections bill and norma, roadmap to violence-free elections. And in that roadmap, we have planned for a series of symposia, national symposia, where we are going to have a major symposium with the leaders of political parties. I have already engaged most of them, and they tell me, look, because we want them to sign a political decency and accountability charter. And this political decency and accountability charter will be asking the leaders to commit themselves to the extent that they would want to work with the other agencies and actually bar people from running for office. They have said they will do it.
Is there a list of consequences if they do not do that, if they do not abide by the charter?
Yes, there will be.
For example?
All those I have talked with have said they are prepared to sign the charter. And we want, of course, to take them through it before we have the national symposium. And when I explain to them what it is, they say, yes, we're talking of being in compliance with Chapter 6 of the Constitution, which is the integrity and the leadership. Then we have Article 10 of the Constitution on the national values and the ethos and the governance. You see, what I really want to believe, is that, and this is what we wanted to do as NCIC, we wanted to help this country, our country that we love so much. See, we have reached a new level of democratic maturity that we have to prove to ourselves and to the world that actually we have reached a level where there is a good measure of decency.
But, Bwana Chairman, the challenge here is that, yes, all these solutions appear to depend so much on the goodwill of individuals, the goodwill of party leaders, the goodwill of parties, the goodwill of politicians and political leaders themselves. And we've seen that has been lacking for a very long time. Hence, we go back to the same question. NCIC appears to be lacking the bite. The question I posed to you, if at all they sign this charter and they fail to abide by it, what is a direct consequence to the party leader or to the political party itself?
Yes. What we wanted to do here is to see that the political parties themselves, as institutions, have inbuilt values and tenets that they actually should abide, should comply with themselves. We are going to challenge them, that because there's no political party that wants it to be seen to be giving in to either pressure and will be able to clear those that everybody can see that this particular individual really should not be given, should not be dignified by being cleared to run for an elective office or a national government to appoint them to any national position. So what I'm talking with here is there's of course a lot of public education, of course, as you have said, the goodwill, yes, but we don't want to leave it only to goodwill. We wanted to have institutions that are serious institutions, that have their code of conduct to which they must abide. You know, so that is the level
Yes.
of political and a democratic maturation that I would like to see this country going to. Now, let me come to the third
so that you can
consequence.
answer.
Let me come to the third
Just before, because we've seen the challenge that probably EACC has had to go through. And IEBC says it's IEBC that can bar any person from running for office, despite EACC finding some people guilty of fraud or electoral malpractice. There's still a challenge. Yet, when it comes to NCIC, we are depending on the same kind of route that another body will come and do its job. Yet, what happens if it doesn't?
And this is why I'm saying that this multi-agency forum, we want it to work together. We want, when we have a case, to have multiple charges. Okay? There is I think it is DCI, for example, has to clear you good conduct. DCI has to clear you.
Yes.
Then EACC has to clear you. Then is up to then IEBC. And what we wanted to do as a NCIC is to say that any of these agencies, and that's what we are going to work together and agree that in terms, when it comes to clearing, we'll also have to talk of, are you on NCIC wall of shame? I know this can be challenged in court, and that is why I said what happened yesterday with the Chief Justice accepting to set up a special bench. This is a big milestone towards holding people to account.
Okay.
And once I really want to believe that this is a new approach, and this new approach, I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't work.
Don't you think it would need probably more legislation for it to hold? Yet the same legislation would have to go through the same politicians who are keen not to have such laws against them?
Right now we have a bill in Parliament. In fact, we have two bills. There is one sponsored by Senator Pereno in the Senate, and there is one in the National Assembly that we initiated, and the Cohesion and Equal Opportunity Committee is taking the lead in this. We have built into this act now, into this bill, which we wanted to believe it to be an act of parliament, which then will introduce new powers to NCIC.
What powers do you need?
For example, we wanted to have a power to set up a tribunal when it comes to dealing with the cases of hate speech that either do not make it or are not taken dealt with in good time in the court. You know, because this is where the problem has been. If we set such a tribunal, and that tribunal now is the one that will adjudge, you know, the perpetrator, if I would use that word, then this is a new area. Second one is timing. Timing is what has been the biggest problem. And now we are going to deal with this because of this new bench. And in fact, that's what we were looking for, even through this bill in Parliament. So in fact, we are already ahead of Parliament on this. Now, the good thing is, it is true, it is the members of Parliament who will pass this bill. And I hope that the promise that we have been given by the members of Parliament, they are saying they are going to pass this.
Goodwill.
No, more than goodwill, really, Fred, here, because they are also beginning to accept that, you know, as a country, really, when we know, we have talked of notorious cases. Is this really
Some of them are sitting members of parliament.
They are. And they should reform if they want to come back.
Are you saying there's something that will happen to them before that probably some of them could actually be barred from running for office come August 9th next year?
Yes, that's what we wanted to do.
Unless through other routes apart from taking them through the judicial process?
Yes, because, you see, they will clearly go to court, because they will try to exhaust all available, avenues, etc. But, you see, this is both a political and a legal, and also social, as I said. So you could, and if a political party really through its own code of conduct bars a person from studying, they can go to court. But even if they went to court and the court says, they shouldn't be barred, but if they do not comply with the code of conduct, and this is the code of conduct that we wanted to see in all political parties. And this really should be, the threshold should be high enough that really Kenyans will be happy to see we have decent politicians in the National Assembly, in the County Assembly.
And in the Senate.
And everywhere. So, and I think that Kenya is reaching that level.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we will be here to see if at all those things come to pass.
We will come here and evaluate.
Let me now turn to another question, and that's the issue of social media, because increasingly methods are becoming more available to politicians and everyone else to actually record themselves and become media owners by themselves without any licensing. We're seeing instances where people just record videos, them uttering any kind of message, and immediately within seconds, it goes viral. Do you have any mechanism at all as a commission to actually counter this? Or do you have any plan of countering that?
We do have a mechanism and we have a plan. I have said that the incidences of hate speech have gone down since we announced that we are putting up this wall of shame. What has gone down is utterances of, what would qualify as hate speech on the political platforms. But we have realized that many of them have now gone online. And this is where we are going to follow them to. And we do have gadgets that, when it comes to recording, filming people in platforms, that one we have. Now, where we need to acquire better instruments or equipment is how now to follow people on social media.
So you do agree, NCIC, there is a gap, and probably that's
and we are filling it. This gap, we are working with, in fact, we even signed a memorandum of understanding with the Communications Authority of Kenya. Because they do have that technology, it has to be very advanced technology. And actually this is following, and that is how, in some cases, they even close, some of these accounts that people have.
Yes.
So we are working with them, and we have agreed that we will be working on a daily basis with them. So we'll be able to identify that. And in fact, we have already been able to identify. They might use fake names, they will use pseudonyms, they will use whatever, but we are going after them.
Because the question is, because a number of videos have been posted over the last week or so by various politicians. We don't need to mention their names, but they're already there on social media, and those videos are available.
Yes.
Is there any such case that you're handling as a commission where a video has been brought to your attention that this borders on hate speech or this borders on political intolerance, and you have taken up the matter?
Yes, we have actually, I would say, not less than half a dozen such cases, which are now
recent cases.
Oh yes, oh yes. Just on Friday, I was discussing it with with the head of our investigations department. And yesterday, we even, looked again at some of these. So we do have them. Some of them already, we have, they know we are after them. And we are going to summon them, and we want, and this is where you have to prove, and we are able to prove that. So that is, and we as NCIC also are going to acquire this technologically advanced equipment that we need for following people on social media.
Because the issue with the online data is that there's a huge, it's a huge area that not necessarily one body can handle, and that's where the real threat lies. NCIC, in as much as you may say you're working on it, social media will still be a problem because millions and millions of Kenyans on social media. It is virtually impossible for any one organization, even for the DCI, to monitor all the conversations online. Are you confident that the NCIC can actually have any effect on the kind of talk, exchanges, videos being shared online?
That is why we need concerted efforts. We need the synergies. We need to work together as a team. I agree, there is no one particular institution or agency that can really handle, because you are right, social media has become a huge forest of, all sorts of things happen there. And therefore, it is not easy, but it is not impossible. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
And that is why we feel that if we work together as a team of all those agencies I have mentioned, it will not be impossible.
Okay. Now, by definition, the Cohesion and Integration Commission should ideally be the focal point of any national discourse, even political discourse for that matter, towards achieving a more cohesive society. That's why it's a National Cohesion and Integration Commission.
Yes.
And part of integrating the community and the society is ensuring inclusivity or inclusion of young voters into the decision-making process. The current situation we are seeing is that the ongoing mass voter registration is achieving very little of its target. According to our news bulletin tonight, it is about 17% with a week to go. Don't you think that this is also part of your job to ensure that the young generation, 6 million expected new voters, actually feel that they should be integrated into the decision-making process? They are not. Is it a failure on your part as a commission?
Well, the integration that we talk about, the I in the NCIC, that integration is integrating ethnically diverse Kenyans, integrating
the different age groups?
Yes, yes, because we work with, councils of elders and the youth, etc. It is true. But that's why I want to start with the integration of diverse ethnic communities. It is the responsibility and indeed the mandate of NCIC to see that in any one particular county, the establishment of employment, for example, at least 30% should be people from other communities other than the dominant ethnic community. Not many counties have achieved that, but we are now working with the counties. There are those counties that we have already put on notice that you have not achieved this and you are not making efforts.
So basically, secondly, you're saying this issue of inclusivity of the younger voters is not necessarily within your mandate.
It's more in the IEBC.
The really. Inclusion you deal with and integration is about more ethnic inclusion.
Is ethnic, is racial, is religious.
Okay.
Yeah, that's basically. But having said that, I want to say that we also would like to through our public education to make young people to feel responsible as citizens. So there is the civic duty that each individual has, and especially the young people. And how do they express that civic duty and the responsibility is by registering to vote, for example. So we have it. And what we are doing in terms of, as you asked about integration, I mentioned earlier on that we have actually planned for 7 national symposia. The first symposium is tomorrow with the religious leaders. Now, in each of these symposiums, we are going to have the organization or institution that we are going to deal with to sign a charter that they say they are going to abide by this, and their constituency, even the religious leaders, they have themselves, in fact, worked out a communique that they are going to sign tomorrow, and to say this is what we commit ourselves to do in order to contribute to violence-free elections or peaceful electoral process before, during, and after the elections. We are going to plan a national symposium for the youth. And now this is where the questions comes in. This is where we really go into those issues that you are referring to. What does civic responsibility mean for a young Kenyan today? Okay? So this is where we are going to deal with that. We are also going to have a symposium for Border Association. In fact, today I met with the chair of the Border National Association of Border, I think that's what they call themselves. This is what we are doing with that is we have realized that the Border are a very key actor in when it comes to
mobilizing crowds.
Mobilizing, things that could even lead to violence. But we want to tell them, and they are telling us. Today, the chairman of the National Border Association was telling me that we now want to change completely so that we, as the border riders, as the association, will be known to be those people who want to promote peace in this country. And that is why we want to have a national symposium with them. And they are saying that after the national symposium, then there will be regional symposia that they are going to have, because they are very well organized all over the country. And all the 47, the chairpersons or the chairman, because they don't have a chairwoman.
Most of them are.
All of them are men. So what we want to do, Fred, here is we want to identify, say, who are the key players when it comes to a peaceful electoral process. So it's not only the politicians. And this is where now the young people come. The question you asked about the young people. When it comes to politicians recruiting young people as goons, like what happened, not so long time ago, this is where we want the young people to say, look, we are not prepared to be hired.
Yes.
To cause mayhem.
But the question is, these young people, and back to the question of voter registration, they seem to be apathetic to this whole process. They're the same people who are used to create chaos through the electoral process. They really do not care about the outcome, or rather, that is what we gauge from the fact that they are not turning up to register as voters. They do not really care about the political process. They can be part of it if at all there's something little to gain from it. So the NCIC cannot really afford to ignore the fact that young people are willing to take part in the electoral process in a negative way, and not necessarily in the decision-making process.
No, it is, certainly we are very concerned about the voter registration apathy. Because it is clearly, there is apathy. There's no question about it. Yesterday, when we met, the IEBC chairman, Chepkati, was really telling us that it's, we expected by this time to have, maybe registered even half. Now, as you say, it's 17%. 17%. Now, this is, of course, something of great concern to NCIC. Because when you look at Article 10 of the Constitution, and as NCIC, we see ourselves as even a custodian of those national values and the national ethos. Okay? So when we see young people, and this is worrying, really, because I'm sure when you when you reached 18, you couldn't wait, to go and register to vote. Why is it today that young people are not so keen about even registering to vote? Okay, they have reached 18 years, they have collected their national IDs, but they are not taking the next step to register to vote. What does this tell us? That is the question we wanted to ask. What does this tell us as a people, as a nation? Because it's a very serious thing, because young people, really, when you see this apathetic behavior with relation to elections or voter registration, it should worry us. Mm-hmm. So it's not only IEBC, you are right, we also as NCIC are worried from the perspective.
Isn't this worry coming in a little bit too late? Because you've mentioned that part of the symposia you're going to have is with the youth. It appears that most of this group might be even locked out of the voting process, if at all the IEBC does not extend the voter registration. So in terms of engaging the youth, you'll only be talking to them in as far as their involvement in campaigns and being hired as goons and not necessarily taking part in the electoral process.
So you're saying it will be too late already by the time we have the symposium? No, we are already engaging them in other areas because of the peace work that we do. Because you see, our engaging the young people is not only with relation to voting, etc. I'm talking of, patriotism, of the values, the national values we are talking about. We have been engaging young people all along when it comes to issues of peace building. In Narok County, for example, and this is where we have had very successful peace building work in Narok South. We have in Nandi and Kakamega, so we have and Vihiga. So we have been engaging young people from a different perspective, but what I hear you saying is that obviously we should bring in the issue of voter registration apathy as an issue. It might be late, but at the same time, and we don't know what the IABC is planning, whether they are going to extend. If they do, then obviously we must work together and impress upon the young people. But if it takes too much persuading and all that, it still shows there is something not quite right. Mm-hmm. When the younger generation is not on their own volition keen at registering to vote. But the question we must ask is why? Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's why is, to me, is really very serious, because it must involve even the character of young people even beyond 2022 elections.
Okay, and as a final comment, of course, your predecessors have gone through this. This is the first election that NCIC will be handling with you at the helm. Yes. And of course, there are challenges that other chairmen, other people in your position have raised, including lack of proper legislation, lack of prosecutorial powers. The question is anyone listening to you as NCIC when you raise these questions? You've previously been a senior advisor on cohesion, peace and conflict resolution at the Office of the President. And by that definition, that title means that you had the ear of the President. Do you feel that at NCIC you still have that link? Are they listening to you as much? The people who can actually effect these changes, as you wrap up?
Yes, actually, I want to say that we are being heard and we are being listened to. A couple of weeks ago, we had a sitting with His Excellency the President. He is our appointing authority. So we shared with him where we are and what we are planning to do. And our roadmap to elections, Bila Norma, he actually appreciated that very much. We have engaged, we have talked with other leaders, the speakers of both houses, now the Chief Justice, as I have said. And I would say that really we are getting feedback, which is very encouraging. That shows that indeed we are being heard. And we are being very much encouraged, particularly on this roadmap to elections Bila Norma. And this is very encouraging to us. We want to now use this period of the electoral process. Now, 186 days, you say, is left.
286 days to election day.
And particularly through this symposia, national symposia, through sensitization, or public education is another area we have identified, and we are going to come up with the National Cohesion Index. This will help us actually to know where is the country at, and we want to have this by beginning of the year. In fact, the last national Cohesion Index was 2013. Okay. Yeah, and this is an indication. It will indicate to us where really we are in terms even of integration that we talked about, okay. Young people that we have talked about. And so this is, to me, is an opportunity, as a commission, when we are now setting and the preparation for elections, that will help us to engage Kenyans at all levels and from all stations of life, and really be able to say what is the national agenda when it comes to matters of cohesion and integration in this country. Wow. And this is what we really wanted to begin to work on, and we'll be talking to Kenyans more and giving Kenyans a report, because we are expected. Our mandate, we must be reporting.
Is very high.
We should be reporting to Kenyans,
yes.
And sometimes through Parliament, other times directly.
Okay.
And this is what we are going to be doing in the period ahead.
Thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Samuel Kobia, Chairperson of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, helping us understand what the NCIC is doing in as far as taming political intolerance. Of course, this is an ongoing process. Many questions have been asked. Many have challenged the mandate of the NCIC. Many are questioning whether or not this organization is able to actually carry out its mandate. Obvious challenges raised by the chairman here. But the conversation continues even online, and I will share with you even the NCIC Twitter handle at NCIC_Kenya. That's the official Twitter handle of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. You can direct your questions there as well. I hope
yes.
There are people to answer those questions too. And of course, this conversation tonight continues online at KTN News KE using the hashtag Newsline. And my Twitter handle is at Freddy Ndimuli. Thank you so much for keeping us company. This has been Newsline. On behalf of the entire team behind Newsline tonight, including our sign language interpreter, Meresha Witi, my name is Freddy Ndimuli saying good night.